fairly soon. What will then happen is that obviously we're now, it's like a couple of minutes before when we're due to start. So, you know, to begin with, we just pass a little bit of the time just while we're waiting for more and more people to join.
To join, yes.
While we're waiting for that, tell me, I mean, how is things developing over there? I'm getting a few messages coming through from other destinations that dive-in potential is starting to open up. You have any updates?
At least in our region, in the Philippines, I was actually talking with the Philippine Commission for Sports Scuba Diving head or yesterday with that's under Department of Tourism. So as of the moment, with diving is still prohibited in the area. But we're hoping things would change soon. They're in the process of drafting a guideline using the DAN guidelines as well as a basis for some procedures to get us ready when we start to get back in the water.
But they're not really giving you sort of a
timeline. No timeline.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. We have similar situation here in UK. You know, it's slowly starting to come out of lockdown in some areas. But there was a meeting with basically the dive-in safety board of the country.
Yeah.
And it's been determined as much as some water sports, some water activities can begin.
Are allowed, yeah.
But dive-in will not be. We don't know for how long still. And it's mainly because, you know, it's not about in water. We know that everybody's in the safest place once we're in the water. But it's always looking at, well, if there is an incident, you know, if there's an incident, especially when we're doing like coastal diving, that involves then search and rescue or RNLI. And it's basically how much risk we're going to put other people under just in the preparation for diving as well. So, and I get that, as much as it's super frustrating for all of us. Nobody can go in the water, but the reality of it is the longer we sit this out and wait, then hopefully we deal with the problem one time. You know, if everybody jumps in too soon, we don't want to have the risk of a second problem, and then the whole of the year could be gone. So
we started to receive some calls of dive center owners and instructors who are frustrated themselves. They want to start the business. Of course, they have people that depend on them, and like me, primarily I depend on this as my primary source of livelihood. But the way I look at it, it's the bigger picture. This is bigger than all of us. It's like public health care and safety. So best to hang tight and hope for the best. Hopefully soon.
But it seems, I mean, some of the other regions, I had an email from a colleague in the US this morning. Looks like in a couple of weeks' time in his region, I think he's up in Boston. And it says in a couple of weeks' time, they will be able to begin training again. So we were just also then looking at, well, what is the implications of that training in terms of some of the skills that we have to do, the gas sharing skills. So pretty soon, probably we'll put out, you know, a communication with all the dive pros as to now our most up-to-date advice with how to deal with those training scenarios. I mean, primarily you're just looking at the out-of-gas drill primarily.
Yes.
But it's, you know, we can definitely find a way that it's not going to stop people from training.
Yes.
But I was surprised because the US have been, you know, sort of not following behind, but Europe sort of had our big cases and then the US came. It looks like some of those regions are going to be back training before we are. Good or bad, I don't know.
I'm hoping even if they would allow pool training, or confined water training. Of course, not all centers have the luxury, but because we have a facility in Manila, if at least they allow us to open up the pool with certain guidelines, then we could at least start to jumpstart courses and get people skills up to date again, get in the water.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the focus now, is to get everybody prepped and get everybody up to date and get everything ready for the season to start. Just looking over to our screen, so we have already people joining the room. We are up to 91 people already.
Mm-hmm.
We have Sharm el Sheikh is there. We have, who's that? Croatia is in there as well. Holland coming in. So this has been really interesting. We were talking with colleagues earlier to still say with these meetings, with these live meetings, it just brings in so many people from each of the different regions. It brings everybody together. It's really been quite amazing getting worldwide everybody together at one time. I'm super impressed with it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just on now. So on UK time, I'm on 12 o'clock. You are now at 8 p.m. or something?
7 p.m.
Not too late for you.
Nah, it's
Before
fine.
we start, I will just do just a bit of a reminder for everybody who has tuned in to us. This is now, we are in week 4 of our live presentations. If anybody has missed any of the previous tech talks that we've done over the last weeks, then literally just scroll down on that Dive SSI Facebook page, and you will find each of those live presentations that's there. Plus the Scuba Sundays that's gone on, Free Dive Fridays, everything will stay on that page, as will the talk that we are having today. Also a note for anybody, so, you know, we do want these talks to be a bit interactive. So it's not just about us two sat here on the screen. So if anybody does have any questions, then they can just use the messenger side or messages, and you can just write along the post. My colleague Adam is in the background. He's there to assist us and keep on top of questions, and when we have those that are applicable, we'll try and put them in at the time, because I'm sure when it comes down to the scientific side, the research side, I'm sure people are going to have a ton of questions for you. So we'll try and keep on top of those as we go through. If we miss any at the time, then again, sorry for that. We will have like a Q&A section at the end of the presentation, time permitting. So good. So without waiting anymore, I'm going to let you do a little bit of an introduction to yourself. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you do?
Okay, so good evening for those of you who are in the Philippines. For the rest of the world, probably just good day, because I don't know if it's morning or afternoon where you are. So my name is Gordos. I'm an SSI instructor trainer. And for the Philippines, I'm working with the SSI Philippines as a support manager, helping out with talking with managing dive centers and guest relations. And for things that I do, programs that I teach are mainly most specialties under recreational scuba diving. Of course, entry-level experience programs all the way to leadership level. And then I do extended range, technical extended range, cavern, and technical rec. I'm also the lead instructor at Scuba Academy Manila. I also do swim programs. I'm a swim teacher. That's what I like about SSI, is because I can integrate most of the things that I like and programs that I teach under one agency. I'm a lifeguard instructor trainer also. I do free diving. I'm a level 2 free diver, and I do basic free diving. I'm a basic free diving instructor. The only program I haven't touched is mermaid, but I'm not putting a period on that. Who never knows? Corina is very persuasive in terms of promoting the mermaid programs.
Making the note now. I need to register you for the mermaid program.
Yeah. And I'm also a member of the Filipino Cave Divers and field tech divers and underwater contractors, where we do some commercial jobs here and there. And I've been a diver since 2004. That was my first open water certification. Became an instructor 2010 and an instructor trainer 2015. So basically, I've been teaching for 10 years now. 15 years total in the diving industry, my involvement. And uh, other things that I do is I'm a firefighter and I'm an emergency medical technician. So with this lockdown, I was able to go back to my previous passion. So I signed up for the ambulance service again. So I'm working with the Transcare Emergency Medical Services. While
Wow.
we're on lockdown, I do shifts and I'm a rescue technician as well. Yep.
Wow. Okay, so that makes my portfolio look really
No.
poor. I'm super impressed. I mean, it's incredible the breadth of the knowledge that you have, covering not just the diving related parts, but obviously moving into the free diving parts, the swimming parts. I mean, it's all kind of interrelated, every water activity really.
Yeah.
But
It's kind of nice. Yeah.
with the service you're doing now, so you say that you're now back doing the job with the fire brigade?
Yeah, I'm doing volunteer fire brigade on days off because I just can't stand being at home, I guess. So if I'm not doing volunteer duties and I'm an on-call firefighter, I take shifts for the emergency medical services. We transport patients, do hospital conduction, all sorts of this stuff.
So I think it goes without saying, and I can probably speak on behalf of everybody that's watching this presentation, because we value our emergency services like so highly, especially during such times. So we can all say a thank you to you and for what you do for the Philippines. No, really, hats off to you. Really good.
Welcome.
So with the diving then, and we'll do a little bit of a brief history. So you were in the
Yeah.
fire brigade, ambulance, and then diving. Two very different things. How did that come about?
Okay, actually, it looks like it's different, but it's all interrelated. It
Okay.
all started for me growing up. As a kid, I really liked the outdoors. So I started with the Boy Scouts, and then I raised the level up a bit. I was a member of my school-based mountaineering club, which is San Beda Mountaineering Society. So before diving, as much time as I was spending in the water, that was the time I was spending outdoors and up in the mountains. And that exposed me to different activities like dragon boat rowing, and it exposed me to Red Cross. That's where all the firefighting and EMS started. I volunteered as a first aid instructor before, and
Okay.
I was teaching lifeguard courses for the Red Cross as well. And then, of course, with all these adventure sports, scuba was on the bucket list.
All
It
right.
just so happened that, like most people think, it's expensive, but it's on my list. I just happened to had an opportunity to do it back in 2004. I went for it, and then initially I wanted to work as a mountain guide, but
Okay.
it's not as feasible in the Philippines. So closest thing that I can do from guiding the mountain is being a dive master or a
Okay.
dive guide. So that started my professional journey under scuba diving, and then the rest is history. Went to instructor and took other specialties.
No, absolutely. And so once you started to become an instructor, I know you said that you teach still heavily like all of the recreational specialities.
Yes, I do.
And then at some point you've obviously branched a little bit into the extended range. Uh,
Yes, I
what
did.
was the drive? What was the reason for that? Why move into extended range?
Okay. It was part of the things that I want to learn because as an instructor, you want to be well versed. You
Sure.
meet people using side mounts, different rigs, and you want to be knowledgeable when you speak to them. So
Yeah.
I really wanted to learn this, but the main drive was a ferry disaster way back. I just don't want to mention the date because I might mention a wrong date. It was a ferry disaster back in Cebu. So two passenger ferry hit each other,
Cool.
and one sank down with still a lot of passengers trapped inside. So it was a search and recovery mission.
Okay.
Uh, Philtech divers, I was working for them during that time, was asked by the Philippine Coast Guard to assist in the recovery mission. So when I joined in, I was a long-time recreational instructor during that time. But when I went on site, that is when I realized that as an instructor,
Yeah.
most people might think that I've been in the water almost every day. I teach
Yeah.
daily, so basically we think that we know a lot about diving, but that is when I felt I was not capable of helping because
Yeah.
I did not have any overhead training. I did not have any training on decompression procedures, so
Right.
that gave me a sense of drive to learn more.
So you kind of you found your limitations at that point of where your
Yes.
knowledge level was.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of I had a similar thing when I was working in Egypt, primarily as a dive guide recreational instructor. You know, the guests would come with twin sets or rebreathers, and I also had no idea. That was also what prompted me to
Yeah.
learn more, was to just to gain more information from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we want to talk about, which I think is of interest to a lot of people here, is this debrief research project.
Yes.
And I don't know the details of it. I had a look through the abstract article you sent through. There's a lot of scientific
Yeah.
terminology there. Hopefully you can break down a little bit of what that is. Before you do, just for everybody watching, and I think it's okay for me to say, if anybody wants to have a copy of the research paper, we're okay to share it out. Is that okay?
I think so, and it's out online as well, but we can share it out.
Okay, so
I'll of course ask permission from the primary authors of the research paper as well.
awesome. Okay, so if anybody does want it in the messages area, just write down yes. Either send a private message with an email address, and we can share it out.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to try and do while we're talking about this project, using the technology that we have, I'm going to screen share a little bit, some pictures of this project, and hopefully you can provide some explanation as to what we're actually going to be looking at. So to start off with, let me see, technology. Okay. So what everybody should be looking at, they should now be looking at you, and hopefully they can see the title of this scientific project, which is Deep Sea Scientists Discovering Bubbling CO2 Hotspots. Can you just give us like a summary? What was the project about?
The project is all about submarine groundwater and vent discharge in a volcanic area associated with coastal acidification. So basically, what caught the interest of my teammates were because of the CO2 and the acidity in the area. They want to measure how much CO2 was there and what's the acidity level and how it contributes to the coral reefs near this spot.
Okay, and had they done sort of studies in any other locations, or this was just specifically for the Philippines?
Most areas that they're doing, I believe, is in the Philippines. I've just been with them on this leg, on this particular area. This is in Anilao, Mabini, Batangas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it like an ongoing project? Was it just a one-off, or they want to come back?
It was actually ongoing for several years. We were chatting because some of the team members, one of the primary one is based in the US. So he comes maybe 1 to 2 weeks, once or twice a year to work with this project. And we were, I think, at it for about 4 or 5 years. And we just recently concluded this one before the lockdown. It just the paper was published January 22, and we visited the site again last March with a different objective. This was with the University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute to gather some organisms that they found interesting in the area.
And so when they were doing this, or when they first got in contact with you, what was the brief that they gave? What did they say that they needed?
Actually, it was by chance. They were using one of the resort and dive centers that I used to work with, which is Planet Dive in Anilao, Batangas. That's where I started my open water certification. And that's why I'm convenient bringing students there. They were using that area as their staging area or resort base. So they initially started doing sampling and data collection on recreational dive depths, 40-meter range. When they discovered that there was a spot that is interesting between the 55 and 60-meter range, they needed someone to buddy up with one of the researchers and scientists. And that's how I was introduced, and that's how I got involved in the team.
Okay, and so on these dives, because, and my apologies, because I haven't
Yeah.
ever been involved in anything like this. So they're trying to gather CO2 samples.
Yes.
I
These
have
are
one of your
yeah.
pictures. Sorry to interrupt. I have one of your pictures, which just looks like it's something from a medical horror.
Syringe. Yes, yes. A lot of stuff that I was amazed also because let me just double check. Yes, it's an all Filipino team, and having limited resources as Filipinos, we are really resourceful. So these are actually medical syringes that we use to extract pore water and water samples, and sometimes use this also to get gas samples. So we just cover the top and allow the gas bubbles to displace the water, and
Okay.
then empty it in a syringe. We have a vacuum syringe so that the gas would transfer there, and we can bring it up and they
Like
can
how
analyze
many
it for us.
samples were they collecting per dive? What would be like
Uh,
the typical?
a typical sample, when we started, so it would not be so, the task loading wouldn't be too high. We were dedicating dives to like water samples or specifically sediments or specifically gas. We would go like that. And once we surface, we debrief, we check if the samples are good. Those we are missing, then we do another dive. Some dives are multiple samples, like a bit of water, a bit of gas, depending on what they deem that they need or what's lacking.
Okay. Then I have no idea. This looks like something they say.
Actually, that particular equipment we were not able to bring down. This was meant to be tied. Imagine a pulley. This should be tied onto the boat and lowered down to a specific area. Then it gathers different data like temperature, PCO2, acidification. But this one we were not able to bring down because of some problem with the seal, the O-ring seals, and there were some. But I just took a picture of it because I was amazed also of this kind of equipment that these guys brought with them.
So they brought everything with them from the US, I guess.
No, some are actually here. We have really well, most marine sciences lab, especially in the University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute, are well equipped. And the nice thing about some of one of our teammates, Bayani Cardenas, he's a hydrology professor in University of Texas in Austin. If ever he brings some stuff here, some stuff that he can donate to the university or he can leave behind for future research, he does leave it here.
That is super handy.
This is a PCO2 sensor. So I believe Bayani this is typically attached to a submersible or an ROV, but this model was specifically requested by Bayani so that we can carry it as a sling, like a stage tank.
Okay.
So we can you don't have to fiddle around with it. It just basically hangs on your side and it measures stuff for you.
It's very technical stuff. And then I have this final one. It kind of looks to me like it's an analyzer of some.
Yes, almost similar as the other one, but this is a smaller unit. So different brand, I believe. Again, it measures PCO2, it measures acidification, and yeah, all sorts of stuff.
So then, I mean, explain to me, and again, apologies for my naivety. I don't know anything about it, but when we're planning, dives within 50, 60, 65-meter range, of course, there's procedures we need to follow, dive planning that we need to do, checks and procedures. What is then, when you're conducting a research dive, I mean, there's more added complications that go with that, I guess. How does planning and conducting a research dive differ from just a fun dive?
Um, the difference is for a research dive, you have specific objectives. For a fun dive, your objective is to have fun,
Right.
to explore and look around. But this one, since we have specific tasks that we have to complete, and to add what adds to the pressure is the gases that we use on that range. You don't want to waste the dive and not get any samples. So
Yeah.
it adds up to the pressure and you need to be focused. So we discuss procedures. We sometimes do dirt dives or dry dives. We drill on how to extract samples, how we use all these tools that we have, and how to store the samples and bring it up. Make
Yeah.
sure we sort of get it within our muscle memory before we execute it.
Sure. I mean, I just in my mind, because I know how much on a standard dive, you know, we need to concentrate. You're following and adhering to depth limitations, gas limitations, decompression limitations. And for some divers, I mean, that alone is enough to concentrate on. So, you know, I'm trying to think of the task loading that a research team must have on them. Do they have then other divers around to assist?
Basically, for this one, it was me and Bayani doing the 55, 60-meter depth range. And we have other divers who were enriched air nitrox certified.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about this, because of this research, I have 3 future XR nitrox, possibly extended range students who will pursue so they can join us on that depth range. We tasked them on bringing some extra gas for us if in case we'll be needing them, because the site is along a sloping reef.
Yeah.
So they could just stay within the 30, 40-meter range, of course, staying within their no decompression limit.
Sure.
And depending on the visibility, sometimes when we're on our way up, doing our decompression stops, we gain visual contact with them. So it just gives us a bit of confidence that they're there. But to be honest, we plan it independently like they're not there. We should be self-sufficient, me and my body, to handle certain emergencies if they occur.
Yeah. And did you have to factor in anything for the environmental conditions? Was the weather good for you, or did you have any challenges?
To be honest, because for those of you who haven't been to Anilao, diving there is year-round because there's 2 big bays, Balayan Bay and Batangas Bay. One bay is exposed to the southwest monsoon, and the other side is to the northeasterly winds. So depending on the time of the year, you could choose the best conditions. But because of the flight constraints and schedules, some of the times we were forced to dive in rough conditions. And we just had to deal with it. Of course, taking high consideration in safety.
Absolutely. And I think actually probably as an extended range diver, once we start that training, that's what we learn the most about is how important planning is, having objectives, team responsibilities, everybody knowing their individual role. So this is something that is quite, there's a big emphasis on it, especially in the research projects where, you know, some of the guys are going to be concentrating on getting their samples. Other people can be monitoring environmental conditions, perhaps. So I have, maybe people are still a little bit unsure of what the actual in-water part was like. And I know you shared a little video clip with me. It does look like it's come from the GoPro on somebody's head.
It was a paralens on Bayani's mask attached to his
So I'm not going to show the whole clip. I'll just show part of it, but it's just to give people an idea of how I think the samples were collected.
Yeah.
So we'll see if technology can work for me again. We're going to screen share. Oh, got the sound that goes with it as well. But I think, okay.
So those are the gas vents. So we're trying to use the syringe to draw in some water samples.
So these are natural gas vents.
Yes. So we tried to be as steady as we can. On this part, because of the acidity of the vents and the water coming out, it tends to become really itchy when it comes in contact with your skin. And the sheer heat and warmth of those vents, you cannot come really close on certain areas.
Yeah. And these vents that we see there, I mean, there's a lot of them. Is that just
Yes.
specific to that one dive site, that one reef area, or there is more of these?
The team actually made the bathymetry, and they also did the photo time-lapse video of a certain stretch. But that part is where it's mainly concentrated. You'll see other areas having smaller vents coming out, but that is that site that we identified has the most vents coming out.
And what was their conclusion? So they took samples from these vents. Is this having an effect on the marine life or the reef? What's the problem or with
Yeah,
having?
they measured high acidity level. I just don't remember exactly the figures, the parts per million, and it of course just shows proof that there's a discharge of groundwater in the area
Yeah.
through fissures on the rock formation through the vents, and also it sort of explains why in certain areas the growth of the corals is not as healthy as other parts in the area. My personal take on this, that side of the reef, every time I dive that area, it's like it's bountiful in terms of reef fish and corals, but the color is not as vibrant. It's like watching a black and white grayish movie, even on good days.
Yeah.
Whereas on other sites without the vents, you'll see colors. It's like a HD video
Wow.
that you're watching. Yeah.
So what
So
is
that's my personal reference. Yeah.
yeah, what is quite interesting then would be, if they continued these studies, as you say, they have done over the years, to then see what effect that has had in the long term. Has that reef changed? Has the colors changed? Has the amount of marine life changed?
Yeah. One thing about the scientists, though, the scientists in general, that's why we were joking around it on the last sample dive. They said that we have to write this paper and end it because every time we dive, a new question arises, and it would be a never-ending ending dive and search for
Yeah.
questions and answers. And of course, these guys have their own lives to live, their family, and every time they're here, they have to leave their loved ones and their job. So they have to put a timeline. Okay, we stop here first, and let's see if we're going to go at it again. Yeah, but new question arose, and there's more things to be studied. Definitely.
I think there always is. That's the nature of the
Yeah.
beast. As soon as you start
Yeah.
examining something, you may tick a box, you may get a conclusion on one,
Yeah.
but now it opens up the door to others.
Another one. Yeah.
What is interesting with the team that's there, do you know, and then maybe you do, maybe you don't, were they scientists first and then they became trained in extended range diving activities? Or was it the other way around? Were they deep divers and then they got the interest in science? Which way did they develop? Do you know?
As far as I remember, based on our conversation, because the group, the team actually are friends, long time from college when they were taking geology. Most were geology majors from
Okay.
University of the Philippines, and I believe they are scientists first. They were in the academe as well. Of course, midway they got exposed into diving, but
Yeah.
initially it was not a primary tool for them to
Yeah.
gather data. And when the opportunity or this came about, they needed to have more skills to be able to cover that range,
Yeah.
that area. So I believe they took further studies. Bayani specifically took a lot of tech courses to be able to do this kind of diving.
And that's the interesting part, I think. We deal with a lot of people coming through Egypt as well, who are seeking out training, whether it's in twin set diving, whether it's in the rebreathers, and it comes from, let's say it's job orientated. So their passion, whether it would be underwater videography, photography, in this case, scientific research, which then they maybe initially would not have considered undertaking this type of extended range training. But in order to do their job as best they can, it kind of leads them in that direction. So if we had people, and maybe there are people that are watching who have an interest in sort of the scientific part, the marine ecology part, if they wanted to start to get involved in technical diving activities and extending their range, where do they begin?
I'll probably start with the marine ecology thing. So if you're a diver, you're already an extended range diver, or whether you're just a recreational diver, because lots of interesting stuff to do on the recreational depth range. So you could, we have the SSI marine ecology programs that are out. We could actually do this now that we are on lockdown. Might as well take advantage. It's purely academic and online. We have several courses you could choose from, or you could choose to do it all. Because it's very interesting. We have the fish identification, we have sea turtle ecology, we have coral identification, we have shark ecology, and then the manta ray ecology program. And what's nice about this is we have the Blue Oceans campaign also, which tackles about ocean conservation. So with this also, I would like to plug in, this was a request of one of my teammates that teaches for Ateneo de Manila University, that they have a master's in environmental science. This is for those of you who are interested with science and environment. And this can be done as a part-time student, either on weekends or at night after office. And then for the UP, University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute, we have a MS Marine Science, but this course is a full-time course. They need to become a full-time students on this.
So, so it'd be a nice kind of starting point for them if somebody has an interest, you know, if they're looking at this video, listening to your story about this research project, if they have an idea that that's a route they want to go. So start with the ecology programs, as you say, online programs, and then they could take that up into more university levels as well.
Yeah, it could be their head start. And then going back to your other question, how do they get into the realm of technical diving? As a recreational diver, most recreational divers are now Enriched Air Nitrox certified. But if you are not yet Enriched Air Nitrox certified, this is the time that you should do it while we're on lockdown or we're all confined in our homes. It's very easy. SSI is offering Enriched Air Nitrox 32, which you could do at your own pace, at your own house. Exams are there, and it would give you basically the certification level to drive 32% nitrox after the lockdown is over. And then when you see your local dive center or your instructor, it's really easy to upgrade this to the full Enriched Air Nitrox, which allows you to do up to 40%. So that's for those of you who are not diving nitrox yet. And then you could do XR nitrox. This program really works in our region because as all of us know, when we think about technical diving, we think about a total revamp of gear, like from jackets to backplates. We're thinking about a lot of dollar signs or pounds or whatever currency you are. You need 2 regs, you need stage regs. But for XR nitrox, you can use the existing gear that you have and have a bit of taste of technical diving, because all you have to do is put a stage tank on your side, which your instructor could help you configure depending on your current setup. And all you need is another set of reg, which if you don't want to purchase yet, it's easy to rent this out. I'm sure most dive centers would have this. And then,
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say it's quite easy steps for somebody now to go down, entering into either into the marine ecology or the extended route. But listen, I'm going to interrupt. We have some questions. Put on my glasses now and see. Okay, so this one is from Mark. He is asking, what is your gear configuration of choice for the project work, and why did you choose that?
Is that Mark Crane or?
That is Mr. Mark. He is charged.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
He's one of my favorite instructors. So I typically, every time I'm on working dives, I would prefer to be in back mount twin sets with the stage tanks or deco tanks sling onto one side. This allows me a lot of mobility and movement in front of me, no clutter. And the stage, it's either I can clip them off on my lowest D-ring, so I have a full range. And if I have a lot of tools like the ones that we showed you that I need to carry, then I have a lot of space to mount them out, mount them up on my side.
But I see you sent me over something else, which hopefully now people are going to see. So back mount diving may be your personal choice for the projects, but you're not limited to back mount.
Yes.
So this picture, you're doing side mount diving. When are you choosing to do the side mount diving?
Now, side mount diving, in my own opinion, it depends on the environment and situation that I am at. Most of the time, if I can fit into restricted and tight spaces using back mount, that would be my primary choice.
Okay.
But if like the headroom is too narrow and I won't fit using twin set, then I would go side mount. Or let's say we're in areas that it's hard to secure twin sets because some remote areas, twin sets are not readily available. Then that's the only time I would go side mount.
Okay.
If there's no other choice.
Yeah.
So basically for me, these are toys and tools. So what I learned is the more tools or toys you're familiar with, the more environments that you would be able to visit. So yeah, it gets a bit expensive, but it's rewarding. The experience that you get, no amount of money can, I don't know. I spent a lot, but all the memories, all the experiences that I had, no one can take that away from me.
You talk about expenses. Afterwards, we'll talk about rebreathers.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question that we have is from Ivan. So he says, I could understand that the vents that we saw in the video were around 60 meters. What kind of bottom times were you having to sort of complete your mission?
Okay. For this particular dives, we were basing our dive times on the gas consumption of my dive buddy and me. Of course, we planned it conservatively, and we were doing 20 to 25 minutes bottom time. Yeah.
And so that sort of run time, total dive time would then end up being
around an hour, roughly. But of course, part of our briefing is we agreed that safety comes first. At any point, anyone can call off the dive without any explanation. If he or he just doesn't feel like it, or something is out of the ordinary, anyone can call off the dive. And no sample is as important as our lives. So worst comes to worst, we leave everything, we ditch, and we come up.
For sure, you can always go back again and get another sample. Yeah. Right, glasses back on again. Next question. So this is Carl from South Africa. Do you have any plans in the pipeline for making decompression diving more accessible to locals in the Philippines?
Yes, of course. It's the theory behind it. It's easy to teach, and I think a lot of people in the Philippines has the comprehension to be able to understand how it is done. It's just that as for technical diving and extended range, I believe that in our region, Philippines in general, it's really young. Yeah. We're just starting to go onto that side. People were initially apprehensive of doing it because of the sheer thought of the cost involved in getting into technical diving. But with the programs that SSI has now, which I believe no other organization has, like the XR Nitrox, it opens up a lot of avenue. And I'm pretty much sure a lot of people in our region, Filipinos, would start getting into extended range. soon.
Super. And what about the accessibility? I mean, you know, even with the best will, if you wanted to do extended range dives, you need to have the certain locations. You need to have locations where you've got certain depths. Or if people are looking into XR training in wrecks, you need to have wrecks. Or if it's cabin, I mean, is there enough of an environment in the Philippines to be able to deal with extended range diving if people want to do it?
Definitely. If you don't, for those of you who don't know, we are 7,000 plus islands, depending on the tide, high tide or low tide, for
But
the
then it
exact
goes up
number.
or down.
Both ways.
Okay.
So there are a lot of areas that are suitable for deep reef diving. Some are really convenient. Some centers that we have, like I'll specially mention one in Moalboal, which is Kasay Village Dive Academy. They have their dive center is located off from a drop off.
Perfect.
So you theoretically get in the water, go onto a drop off, and go to the depth range that you need to train or you want to explore. And then we have site specific areas wherein if you want to do specific overhead training on shipwrecks, we have two primary locations. We have one up north, which is Subic, which is really convenient to get to. You just need to fly into Manila.
Yeah.
And from Manila, it's just a 2 to 3 hour drive, depends on how fast you drive. And you're already on location. Yeah.
When I flew into Manila, it took me 1 hour just to get around Manila airport.
Yeah, as soon as you're lucky enough to get out of the airport, then that's when the 2-3 hours starts.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's see if we can get through a few more. So Alexis is asking, how many dives are you doing per day on the project? Yeah, good.
On the project, we were trying to do one if we can, depending on the exposure and the amount of preparation, but maximum two.
Yeah.
With a minimum 3-hour break in between, sometimes more. Of course, considering all conditions. Yeah, we never did more than two.
I mean, realistically, I know from when we are running safari trips in the Red Sea, it's hard to do more than that anyway, just because logistic-wise, time to fill cylinders, time to off gas, time to evaluate your previous dive, reset up for the next dive. So, yeah, probably 1 to 2 is what I would have thought, actually.
Yeah.
All right, glasses back on. What is the next one? Tracy from the US. Have you found any new marine life that lives in those extreme conditions of heat and gas in the water?
There are some algae and some interesting stuff that we got from that site before the lockdown started, and I believe it's still sitting in the laboratory in the University of the Philippines.
Okay.
Because the researchers and scientists were not allowed to process it because of the lockdown. So we're waiting to see. I'm still in communication with them if the samples are still good. If it's not good, then it's another excuse for us to go back and get more samples. Those depths.
Such a hardship to have to do, right?
Yeah.
Such a hardship.
Yeah.
Do you know when there's going to be any chance of those results coming out, or we don't know yet?
To be honest, we're starting to transition from, we call it enhanced community quarantine in our local term. We're transitioning to, now we're on modified. So there's a bit of a slack on it. And then once it goes to general community quarantine, start to ease up, maybe they would allow some researchers to start and do their work. Awesome. And then we'll find out.
Well, let's hope that happens. But listen, so tell me, once lockdown is gone, once life, we're going to say, is back to normal, what's your immediate plans? What's lined up for you next?
Of course, first thing is to get back in the water.
Yeah,
regardless of what setup. I won't mind being a mermaid tail or just jump in or snorkel.
You know we're going to make that happen, right?
Yeah, if Corina sends me the mermaid tail from China, who knows?
Put it in the post right now, I tell you. We'll get pictures as well.
Yeah.
But no, what would be then? What is the plan? So lockdown ends. You have some ideas.
Lockdown ends. I have a list of people lined up for courses, especially those who signed up for our Science of Diving campaign,
Yeah.
and a couple of nitrox, enriched air nitrox students, and a lot of people who expressed their interest that they want to get back in the water. So probably a lot of skills review in the pool, a lot of basic training again, just to jumpstart everything. And of course, we're going to be busy trying to figure out guidelines, of course, following what Dan has published. And our local Philippine Commission on Sports Scuba Diving is also making their own guideline to hopefully we're going to go back as close to what it was before.
Sure. So I mean, and as soon as that happens, just get all that information out there so everybody knows the Philippines is now open, not only for diving, not only for mermaiding, but now the extended range diving is out there and readily available.
Yeah, we're actually even going the extra mile since I'm currently working with the emergency medical services. I have a bit of connections with some doctors and some policymakers about
Okay.
certain procedures. We're going to propose in some areas to set up, we're going to modify basically. I know most centers have their emergency action plan.
Yeah.
We're going to modify it in such a way that we're going to include COVID-19, our response to that if in case we get a visitor that tests positives or shows symptoms, and how to quickly isolate so that people will feel more comfortable traveling in our destinations again, to let them know that we are prepped for this and we're ready to handle these cases.
Well, I hope so, because I'm due to come to the Philippines for the first time for diving, hopefully in December.
December, yeah.
So tell me, like in December, because I've never dived in the Philippines, am I bringing my dry suit with me or am I bringing my wetsuit with me?
Actually, it depends on how what your tolerance is. Some people some people do dive in dry suit during that time. Water temperature can drop as low as 24 degrees.
Yeah, okay.
24, 23. Not as bad in most areas. So depending on the types of dive that you will be doing. But if you're going to do XR dives, definitely you might want to consider it. If you're doing long hangs and long decos,
yeah,
might start to feel cold in the end.
I'm the girl who's in my dry suit all year round in the Red Sea. So
yeah, if you have your dry suit anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen, hopefully I'm doing one more screen share. I wanted to show, apparently it didn't work earlier. This is you in your side mount configuration with a giant cave reel of some kind.
No, actually this is a tape measure that we used as a transect line. This particular trip was a trip organized by the Philippine Commission of Sports Scuba Diving together with Philtech divers. We do, as part of our service, we go to certain regions to try and do a rapid survey and evaluation of their reef system if it's viable for diving tourism. So that particular area was in Sipalay in Negros. The reason why I was on side mount, because they have a nice shipwreck at about 40, 50-meter range that I need more gas. They have it's a World War II wreck. There's still gas mask on top of the wreck.
Oh, nice.
I'll send you pictures next time. And they also have several cave systems. So we did some cave dives there and some mine diving. That's why I was on a side mount, even on a reef dive. So I'll be versatile on that particular survey. That was just a simple transect line on a shallow reef that we did.
A really nice picture.
Yeah.
But listen, I won't keep you any longer. It's getting into evening time. Thank you so much for providing us all the information on that research project and explaining more about what is being done in the hunt for finding CO2 off the reefs of the Philippines.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm just trying to find as much excuse as I can to breed heal you. No, I'm kidding.
I think we're all
I'm into it.
We're all in the same.
Yeah.
Listen, all right then. Take good care. Good
Thanks,
luck for
Kat.
the next couple of months, and hopefully I will see you towards the end of the year.
Of course. thanks for having me, SSI Tech Talk Tuesdays, and thanks for everyone who took time to join us today.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care, buddy.
Bye. Thanks.